All right, y'all ain't know how stepping with Marcus J is live. We are in the building getting ready to have another outstanding show as we do every single week live from the Den of Legacy Internet Radio. The featured conversation tonight, we talking about the N-word. Who can use it? Who can't use it? Who's offended by it? Why do we still use this word? We're talking about the N-word. We also going to have the Diva Diaries later on in the show, hosted by our sister Dating Pool Diva, Legacy Internet Radio, the Diva Diaries segment. But up first, we got a very special interview. You folks been watching the news, been watching the airlines. Some people think there's some crazy foolishness going on, and we got a flight attendant that's going to give us the skinny on the real deal. You're listening to the flagship show of Legacy Internet Radio. It's called Ain't No Half Stepping with Marcus J. That's me, and it's live right now.
Yeah. It's about that time. It's about that time to get. Yeah.
Button your lip. Open your ears. Strap on your thinking cap. Socially conscious talk that's entertaining with a dash of humor and the top sports stories of the week. It's time for Ain't No Half Steppin' with Marcus J.
Sellers has Jordan. Jordan with 2 seconds to go. Puts it up and scores at the buzzer. Michael Jordan has won it for Chicago. Manning lobs it. Burris alone. Touchdown, New York.
Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. He hits one deep to right center. That ball is out of here. The Yankees win the pennant.
If they lying, then they must be half stepping. Ain't No Half Stepping with Marcus J is live. We are in the building. Be down with us tonight. 804-402-2893. Be a part of the flagship show heard live from the Den of Legacy Internet Radio. So happy to have you guys on TuneIn and Streamer checking us out. Thank you to those folks on Stream Licensing, as well as the folks that are listening to the replays on YouTube and iTunes. Y'all rock with us every single week. We will roll with y'all, celebrating 17,000 listeners to the station Legacy Internet Radio, a milestone for us achieved last month in the month of March 2017. And it's because y'all continue to help us build and grow. That's why we keep doing that. So on the other side of the intro, you guys heard me tease it. Plenty of show to get to, but right now I am happy and honored to bring to you guys a very, very special guest. Many folks have been watching the news cycle the last few weeks. A week or two ago, we had the gentleman pulled off of a United Airline flight. We're going to talk about that. And we also had an incident over the weekend with an American airline flight. And so I'm very happy and honored to bring our sister Kathy onto the live line. She is a current flight attendant. We won't say who the airline that she works with on the show, just to kind of protect the innocent and the guilty. But Kathy, you there with us?
I'm here.
How you doing, Kathy?
I'm doing good.
Well, you are in fact a flight attendant. True or false?
True.
True. All right, good deal. How long you been doing it? 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? You don't have to give me the exact number, but which one is the closest? 5
Almost
years, 10?
20.
Almost 20. All right. So you got some experience. You're not just somebody coming on here just making up stuff. You know what you're talking about.
I think I do, yeah.
All right, Kathy. Well, couple things that I want to get to. I mean, those are the two stories that are kind of the foundation or the basis for why I wanted to have the conversation. But, there's some questions that those folks who, may not fly regularly may not understand. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. But first is the story about the passenger that was taken off of the United Airlines flight. My understanding was that there was some United Airlines employees that basically bumped him. He was asked to leave the plane. He refused. And of course, we all saw the video of him being pulled off of the flight. Is that pretty much how you know the story?
Pretty much, yeah.
Pretty much. Now, what's your thoughts on it? You saw it. You know about it. What's your thoughts?
From what I saw, it's just, I think it's, sad at times, especially with the videos and everything, that we don't see the whole story. We only get, obviously, the back end of it. But it looks like, that overpowering excessive force was definitely used. I think it, from my opinion, could have been handled completely different. I think there were some parts that, maybe on his part where he should have gotten up once the security got there, possibly.
Right.
But the way they took him off the plane, I felt was very, very over-aggressive and unnecessary.
Right. Well, what you'll get from a layman, somebody like me who does not fly regularly, I've been fortunate enough to be able to travel in my life, but I don't fly regularly. And
Right.
I'm thinking if I'm a person that paid for a ticket, or even if I'm flying standby or on a buddy pass or any of those situations, and I'm in my seat, why do I have to give up my seat just because you work for the airline? Tell us a little bit of what your opinion and what your thoughts is, what you know based upon that kind of scenario.
The thing is that obviously the government allows the airlines to do what they consider overbooking.
Okay.
I think that flight, I don't know if, from what I read and everything, it wasn't necessarily overbooking. They wanted employees to get on. And I'm not sure, because situations I've been in where we've had to get on the flight, when the flight was booked, we were put on the next flight. Like, it didn't seem like they were previously booked. So I'm not completely certain how that situation came about. It seemed like maybe something was happening with on the flight, wherever they were going. I think they were going to Louisville, and they said that they needed them there to work that flight. But things like that have happened to me in the past, our seats were booked. So it happened before boarding, not, at the time somebody's been in the seat. But I have been on flights and worked flights where people have gone down and gotten in their seat and they've had to call people off.
Right.
How
does that normally,
for various different reasons, but they are allowed to overbook, and it has happened more and more and more and more. I don't agree with it,
right.
But that's, it's to cover them, because sometimes people just simply don't show up.
Have you seen a situation where someone caused a ruckus? Maybe not what we saw in that video, but just in your experience, in your near 20 years of flying, have you seen a person just kind of lose their cool?
I've had to put somebody off.
You have?
Yes.
Okay.
I had a passenger, and it kind of not, like I said, it wasn't that. It wasn't overbooking. I think something had happened earlier in the day, and from my understanding, the passenger was given a ticket for a later flight and told to stand by for the flight that I was working, which was about an hour earlier.
Okay.
Well, somehow they got through and got on the plane. And so when the passenger that was supposed to be on the plane came on, I'm thinking it's a deep seat. So I checked the tickets, and I see that the ticket that he has is for the later flight. And he did not want to get off the plane. Because he insisted that he was told that this was his flight and not the next flight. And so it took the agent to come down. He still didn't want to get off the plane, to convince him to get up. And thankfully, I convinced him to at least get up out of his seat. And he came to the front of the airplane but did not want to get off. And the agent, left and said that he was coming back with security. No, he said he was coming back with his manager. And when he got off, I told the passenger, he's not coming back with just his manager. He's coming back with security. And if you don't get off the plane, they may not let you get on the next flight. So he eventually stepped off. But that, it got to that point was not where they had to drag him off or anything like that. I don't think, like I said, I thought that was just, I don't know.
Well, listening to your personal experience, and hearing how that customer that you had was obviously upset about having been asked to leave the plane for whatever reason, I'm thinking if you catch somebody on the wrong day, you might have to drag them off the plane. If you, as I'll use the word administrators for lack of a better term, you as the administrators of the tickets and the flight attendants and the gatekeepers and if y'all really feel like this person shouldn't be on the plane, do you really not think that they won't drag you off the plane? I guess, you know what I'm saying?
Right, and that was kind of like when I looked at that video, seeing the guy, they looked as if they had got him took towards the front of the plane to get off, and he runs back on the plane, and I'm like, why would you? but everybody reacts differently. And then, like you said, he was just thinking he needed to get home. And he didn't care how he was getting there, but then he needed to get home.
Yeah. From my understanding, he was a doctor. And, we can talk about the social aspect of them trying to make him seem like he was some sort of bad guy based upon the information that initially came out about who he is until the record was corrected and we found that he actually was a doctor. And there's some reports of him actually just trying to get home to his practice. And, I honestly, my personal opinion of that is it really doesn't matter who he is and what his occupation is. As a, talk show host and a founder of a radio station, my life is no more important than, a flight attendant that's trying to get to another city or a doctor who's trying to get to someplace else. That's just my opinion. But obviously, there are folks who disagree with me. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. live from the Den, Legacy Internet Radio. We're talking to our sister Kathy. She is a current flight attendant with near 20 years of experience, and we're talking about some of the incidents that we've seen come up in the news the last few weeks. We'll come back to this case here, Kathy, if it comes up. But the other one that I want to ask you a little bit about is the more recent one on American Airlines. Now, there's video of this, but there's story for the story. Well, there's part of the story that we didn't actually see that I'd like to kind of talk about as well. Apparently, this is a woman who had two small children who tried to board the plane with her stroller, and the male flight attendant snatched the stroller from her. Apparently, there was some words prior to it. And he tried to wrestle the stroller from her. Some reports say that the stroller nearly struck the child in the face, but the video actually begins in the aftermath of that altercation. Where you see the mom visibly crying, visibly upset, and you see the flight attendant off to the side, just kind of rumbling verbally and inaudibly. The first thing that I notice is another passenger has words with the flight attendant. He says, something along the tough guy lines of, if that was me, it wouldn't have gone down that way. You know how guys talk. It was kind of the gist of that piece, and there was some words back and forth. But the end result is the flight attendant in this particular case, because he did get in the face of the other passenger, and the other passenger got into his face. And, we did the whole, well, if you want some, come get it type of deal. The pilot had to get involved. Eventually, the flight attendant was suspended in this particular case. That's pretty much the gist of that one. So I'm guessing you know about this case as well.
Yes.
What's your thoughts?
Like I said, again, it's hard to judge when you haven't seen the beginning of it. However, I do, it's a lot of times things just get so out of hand, and it's hard to expect, that because I'm a flight attendant, that I may not react a certain way just because. Right. So, it's sometimes, some days, it's just crazy out there. And depending on what else, he was probably responding to something else that had happened to him all day, early in the day, which is no excuse whatsoever. He should have never snatched anything from anybody's hand, because if I tell you what needs to be done, and if you aren't following it, I'm going to go get someone else to take care of it, because I'm not the police. I am there to enforce the rules. However, I'm not going to snatch something from somebody's hand. Right. He could have clearly waited. There's many different ways that situation could have been handled. And initiating or getting physical with a passenger is the last thing a flight attendant should ever do. Right. I also think that the man who decided to stand up and say something should have probably stayed in his seat, my own personal opinion, because looking at the video, you can't clearly hear what they're saying up in the front of the cabin. Somewhat you hear what the woman is sort of saying about, being hid in her stroller, but you can't hear I couldn't clearly hear what everyone else was saying. But it seemed like whatever they were doing was trying to take care of the situation. So his getting involved in it only escalated it even more. The guy is already above where, emotionally where he should be, And he just escalated it. I think, the passenger, again, he should have stayed in the seat, in my opinion.
Right. You said something I want to come back to because it was important. And I don't even think you noticed it when you said it, but I absolutely picked up on it. You said something like, I'm a flight attendant, but, I still kind of got feelings about certain things, not your words. I'm just kind of paraphrasing what you said. And, outside of, running Legacy Internet Radio, I also work a job that has certain aspects of service to people. And, I'm kind of known as a grumpy guy. I'm sure the folks at Legacy Internet Radio would agree with that assessment. And I'm pretty blunt and direct and to the point. And you really only have one time to kind of annoy me before you get it. For good or bad. That's just kind of how I am temperament wise, but I do have to be cognizant of how I'm relating to people. Having said that, do you find that flying regularly, it is a challenge to keep, from being slick with your tongue because somebody was slick with theirs with you?
It is extremely challenging. And I think I am, as an individual, not slick at all with my tongue. I think I am so easygoing, so calm. But when I go to work now, with the years, and years have made it harder and harder.
Right.
Because, like I said, being someone that works in the service industry, we are providing customer service. So you want to give the best service to someone. But it's difficult, especially, like I said, I don't know how many flights he had. And it's not an excuse, but we have to understand that we, too, are human. We're all human. And a lot of people don't see the back end of our job, where we're some days working 12, 14 hours a day. You see me for this one flight. What you don't know, I've already had 5 flights.
Right.
And I've already had to tell 6 passengers to put the bags under their seats. I've already had to tell 20 passengers to please turn off your cell phone because I've asked you 3 times already. Right. I've already had to, so, and again, we are human beings. So at some point it gets to people and they find it difficult to hold that in. Right. And that's why usually when I fly, I try not to fly so many, if I can get away with it, not to fly so many legs in a day, which is, so many flights in a day. Just because that's and the boarding is probably the most stressful portion outside of an incident happening of the job. Because especially when things are going on, people are upset that they can't bring their bags on, or people are upset because something didn't go right if they had a delay, and you get it right there at that door as they're coming on the plane.
Right.
And it's hard some days.
And whatever it is, it's your fault.
Right. Exactly.
Whatever it is your fault.
Exactly.
And half step on Marcus J, live from the Den Legacy Internet Radio. We're talking with our sister Kathy. She is a flight attendant with near 20 years of experience. We're talking about some of the incidences that we've seen lately here in basically the United States with regards to the incidents on the plane. We spoke about the passenger that was pulled off of the United Airlines flight a couple of weeks ago. We remember seeing him all bloodied. And then over the weekend, we had the incident with the American Airlines situation with the flight attendant that had the verbal altercation with the male passenger after having snatched the stroller from an unrelated female passenger. Just a couple of quick hits, Kathy. I want to get some answers from you. Do you find that your frequent flyers versus your casual flyers provide the same level of frustration and stress? You would think a frequent flyer would kind of know the deal, how this works. I mean, are they more of a challenge? Are they less of a challenge versus the occasional once-a-year flyer?
They're less of a challenge because they know the deal and know what's going on. You can tell someone who's a seasoned traveler. Typically, things like this happen, and we happen to be in that season, spring break time, and the holidays around. Once November hits through early December, and spring break time, and then of course sometimes over the summer. But generally, the holidays are when we find that it's most stressful because you're dealing with a lot of not non-frequent flyers who fly maybe once or twice a year,
right?
And they get frustrated with the simplest things.
Right. Right.
or, I don't understand the process. And that's another thing that I think I remind myself whenever I get into that point where I begin to feel frustrated. I have to remember this may be their first flight ever, or, maybe their second or third in their lifetime, where I fly every day. So, of course, I get it and know it, and it makes sense to me,
Right.
but it may not make sense to them.
Right.
But that's something, I have to constantly remind myself of that, because we find some of the things that go on, it's like, why would somebody do that?
Right.
That
was
It's kind
boneheaded.
of like with bags. They think that
Yeah.
we're supposed to put all their bags up for them, and it's like, no.
It's funny that you say that, because I was speaking to another person who works in a similar capacity as you, and this person mentioned that they have run into the flyer that actually thinks that y'all are there to put their bags away.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Or I'm called a waitress often too.
The waitress. Wow. Okay. Let me ask you another one. This is a kind of a fun question. I think most people get excited when they see celebrities. I would guess that even flight attendants, even though you may see them more frequently, potentially, than, a person that doesn't travel quite as much, but not so much you as the flight attendant, but other passengers. Have you seen other passengers just kind of bug out off of looking up and seeing a celebrity on a commercial flight?
Oh, yes.
How does that
And
happen?
this
Tell me.
person
I
was
mean, you
in
don't have to
first
say
class
the
seat.
name. I don't want to kind of compromise anybody, but
No, I won't give any names. I couldn't even. I'd have to really think about it to remember anyway.
Good. So you can just remember how you felt when you saw the situation. So just give me just a general idea of what that's like.
Yeah, I mean, and for us, we have to sort of protect them, I guess, to a degree, because you don't want, they're just traveling, trying to do what they're doing. And I had a passenger, he was asleep. And I had another passenger come up to me and was like, I really want to wake him up so I can take a picture. And I'm like,
No, you can't wake him
no, you
up.
cannot wake up this man so you can take a picture with them. That's not going to happen. And she was kind of upset with me because I would not allow her to wake up.
Now that is crazy.
Yeah, no, I want to wake him up so I can take a picture. No, please go back to your seat. Thank you.
Yeah, no. Because when Marcus J gets to the point where he's worldwide, at least nationally recognized, and I'm on a commercial flight flying from wherever on whatever airline, and if Kathy taps me on the shoulder and says, this passenger over here wants to take a picture of you, I'm sorry if you're sleeping and you probably haven't slept in days because you are busy. But this passenger wants to take a picture with you, Kathy, I'm going to have a problem with you.
I bet you would.
Absolutely. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J, live from the den, Legacy Internet Radio. All right, last question. As far as the peers that you've had, do you find that this is the kind of, and now it's just a lifestyle question for flight attendants, because we kind of went through the other stuff and I think we've talked it enough, but do you find that this is a job that people stay in for a long time? I mean, you've got near 20 years in, and we won't talk about, how old you are and how old you were when you started. None of that's relevant, but you got near 20 years in. Do you have any, what we call lifers in certain other jobs, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years? Do you have people who do it that long, or is there kind of a lifestyle peak that people, because like, I'll give you an example. My older brother, has a job that, most people, when they get to retirement, not retirement age, but the years of service, they run it. You know what I mean? In his case, it's 25 years. He coming up on 25 years in his vocation. He about to be out. 25, he's done. And there's other vocations that's 20 years, or some that's more. So I guess to simplify my question, do you find that people stay flying for long parts of their lives?
Way too long.
Yeah. Really?
Way too long.
Now, are you close to seniority? Are you in the middle of the pack? At
No,
almost 20?
I am a baby.
You're a baby at near
With
20.
almost 20 years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. There are people, because flight attendants don't have, an age limit like
Okay.
pilots.
Okay.
Once a pilot hits, I think it's 65. They have to leave regardless.
Okay.
I think it used to be 63, and I think they raised it, but we don't have one. And I think the job in and of itself, the structure of it, if you can adjust to the structure of it, it makes it easy not to leave.
Okay. I guess
because of the lifestyle that it can allow you to have.
I can understand
And
that.
so,
Do you have
yeah.
anybody? Well, then here's a fun question for you. I don't know if you know it offhand, but just give me a guesstimate. What's the oldest peer that you know of, and whether this is the same person or not? What's the longest amount of service that you know of?
The longest amount of service that I know of is probably about 53 or 4 years.
Wow, 50 years flying. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
I know
mind-blowing.
it's past 50 but it's probably about 53, 54 years. And I'm assuming that individual, whom I know, is probably in her 70s.
Okay. I mean, I would guess at 53 years, I'd hope that she's at least, or he's at least 74. You know what I mean? Like, how old are you? What is the minimum age for flight attendant, by the way?
Well, now, I know when I started, I think it was like 19, but I think somebody told me it was 21 now. So.
Okay. That's what I said, when I said 74 versus 53 and whatnot. Do you I said last question, but one more thing I'm going to ask you. Because in the job that I have, which I never really talk much about what I do outside of Legacy Internet Radio, just for personal reasons. I don't talk much about my personal life, on the show, on the station. But there are people who work for the company that I work for that do a similar job that I do that are not stationary. They're people who work in a lot of different places. I'll just say it that way. Do you find that some people, quite frankly, just don't have no place to live? You know what I mean? Like, they live off of flying, and maybe they'll stay in a hotel during their days off. Does everybody, for the most part, go home? Because I've always wondered, you know what I mean? Like, if you're always in the air, then where is home?
Yeah. For the most, I don't think I know anyone that doesn't have a home. However, what happens is, especially if you're starting out, a lot of, probably, let's say the first maybe 5 years of a career in flying, especially for a major airline,
right,
if you don't live in what we consider your base,
okay,
they probably have, and some of them do use hotels. I did that for a little while. So when I'm on duty, because you didn't fly as much, but you had to be in base, some people did stay at hotels where we have what we call crash pads.
right,
Which is like, somebody has an apartment and they rent it out, but maybe like 6 or 8 people will be staying in a one-bedroom apartment with bunk beds and things like that.
Crashing.
So
like
they
in
do
college.
that, but you're there usually when you're on duty, and that's not, where you live,
Right,
per se.
right. I got you. And half stepping with Marcus J. live from the Den Legacy Internet Radio. We just had an outstanding conversation with our sister Kathy. She's a flight attendant of near 20 years experience. And we talked about the life of a flight attendant. We talked about the high-profile incidences that we just saw here with United Airlines and American Airlines. Kathy, I am very, very happy that you allowed us to talk with you, very open and very candid with your comments, and we appreciate you, sis. We do.
Thank you. Appreciate you, too.
No problem. Hold the line for just a moment. Ain't no half-stepping with Marcus J. live from the Den. Legacy Internet Radio. We're going to take our first break of the night, and when we come back, I'll introduce the crew, and then we will have a discussion on the N-word. Who can say it? Who can't say it? Who's offended? Who's not offended? I expect it to be a very interesting conversation, and we're lucky to have you along for the ride. Ain't no half-stepping with Marcus J. You rock with us, we roll with y'all. Be back in a few. Y'all stay with us.